Do you think cutting off food, water and electricity is within international law?
I think that Israel has an absolute right to defend itself against terrorism.
That's not the question I asked.
It is an answer to the question that you've asked, and I think it's an appropriate one at this time.
Always got on very well with Emily. I've got pissed with her, campaigned with her repeatedly. Someone I've always just had a huge amount of warmth for, even when I don't agree with her. I spoke out what I thought was the sexism of the 2020 leadership election, where I thought she was more charismatic than Keir Starmer, came from a similar place, and look what happened to her. I thought that said a lot about the Labour Party sexism at the time, to be honest. What I'd say about Emily is she went on national television and she was asked repeatedly by the brilliant BBC journalist Victoria Derbyshire, is cutting off water, food and energy against international law? Emily Thornberry, the shadow Attorney General, quite literally in charge of the legal area of the Labour Party in terms of prospective government, and a lawyer, knows that cutting off water, food, medicine, anything else is a war crime. It's a war crime. And we can see that war crime now playing out in terms of starvation and children dying in their thousands, and innocent civilians, men, women and children dying in their thousands, and one of the great atrocities of our age. Now, when she went on television, when she saw that and I watched that, I felt sick. I actually felt sick. I actually felt nauseous. And I just don't understand. Sometimes I kind of feel like I've just entered a parallel universe. That's, in terms of what's happened since the 7th of October, when horrendous atrocities were committed by Hamas against innocent Israeli civilians. And then ever since, tens of thousands of Palestinians have been slaughtered. I feel like I've entered into a parallel universe where there is not even a pretense of people having a basic moral code and just decency, and just allowing and standing by and legitimising a grave, grave atrocity. And she must know, by going on television at that moment and making that case, she helped legitimise the war crimes which were already being exacted, because the Defence Minister, Yoav Gallant, at the time said we're cutting off all of the essentials she was asked about, and on the grounds that we're dealing with human animals. That was genocidal. I said it was genocidal when it was said, which was 3 days before she went on national television. That was cited in the International Court of Justice's own ruling in terms of the provisional orders that were then issued in terms of the case against Israel for alleged genocide by South Africa. And my own view is that means she's not fit for office. I cannot physically go into a polling booth having seen what's happened to the people of Gaza, the Palestinian people, having watched too many videos and pictures now of little kids suffering the most horrific, violent deaths and starving to death and all the rest, and put a TIG next to the name of someone who went on television and, when asked about cutting off the essentials of life, said Israel has an absolute right to defend itself against terrorism. Well, that absolute right is now being played out in front of our eyes. And I said to her, what I texted her at the time is, I said to her, I've always voted Labour, this is it for me, I won't vote for you. We all have our red lines. Mine is supporting war crimes and the mass slaughter of civilians. And I texted that on the 14th of October. I would ask people to think, what happened after that? Was I right or was I wrong? And I just think that should haunt her for the rest of her life. It was a moral disgrace. And I felt ashamed of ever having... I just felt warmth towards someone who... I just don't understand what's going through people's heads a lot of the time. And I don't understand how people are not sickened by that kind of behaviour. But I would never, ever be able to vote for something like that. I just think it's beyond...